So, as an undergrad,
Mm-hmm.
you're a black, you're female, and you're a
Mm-hmm.
minority.
Mm-hmm.
You already have so many things stacked up against you.
Yeah.
What type of struggles did you have that you were a little bit worried about, but you kind of struggled through it and were able to be more confident
Yeah.
about the
Yeah.
way you are?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great question. I feel like I was really lucky with, being able to go to Georgia State. Like, I felt like it was such a diverse place that I didn't really like feel super out of place, like in my classes and like with my friends and stuff. And so that was really great. But of course, there's still like those thoughts in the back of your head when you're like, like when I was pursuing medical school or like applying for different scholarships, and like, just having this thought that like when you see the people who are where you want to be and they like don't necessarily look like you, it's like, what are the odds that I will actually make it there? And yeah, just like I feel like that was a thought that, I kind of had to work through. And yeah, like just seeing physicians who didn't look like me, and or like my mentors, weren't always like black women. And um people I spent a lot of time with, like professors and that I worked with, and everything. But I do feel like Georgia State was like, I was very surprised at the number of like just the amount of diversity in
Hmm.
the student body. And like lots of my professors were from like a multitude of different places. So that was great. But I think it's always like just like looking at the numbers too of like how many, like the demographics of physicians in the US and how few black physicians there are, like those numbers and things, like it's hard not to kind of feel intimidated by that.
Female
And
too,
yeah,
black
yeah,
female,
exactly,
right?
exactly. So I think I think it more so came up to like when I was applying to medical school and like during interviews, and kind of like feeling like when I was interviewing at certain places, I like, these people definitely don't look like me. And also like wondering if my race was potentially something that, schools wanted to use to their advantage. And so that was something I also had to like try to filter through schools and like, find schools that genuinely care about the entire student body. And, it wasn't like I was just going to be like a token black student.
Hmm.
And, the first of, I've heard from lots of people like being the first in a school is like a very challenging thing. And
Hmm.
so yeah, I definitely wanted to look for places where, the black community is very strong and supportive and supported by the school as well. But yeah, I definitely had lots of times where it was like, I feel like I don't have a physician mentor who's black. Like during my undergrad times, I didn't have one. And like, what are the odds that I will actually make it there? And all the physicians I've had growing up, like none of them have been black, and all of these things. So yeah, yeah, definitely
It's
struggle.
right. It's tough, but
Yeah.
the good thing, at least what I see from your following you, is Duke does a great job with that.
Yeah.
They don't just put like one, like you said, one
Right.
black minority and just into that situation where you're the golden child, but
Yeah.
they really look at what there is to bring to the table. And there's a lot
Exactly.
of talented people in your class that do
Yeah.
that anyways,
Yeah.
no matter of what ethnicity they are, but
For
they do a great
sure.
job.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's good that you did that. So how did you like scout them out when you're not in medical school, or go from
Yeah.
there?
Yeah. So I think a lot of that comes during like the interview process. And so, like, once, even beforehand, but especially like once you get an interview somewhere, um, usually you'll get contact information from students. Usually, like during my interview days, I would just like look around at like the current students there and see like what the demographic makeup was, and talk to students then, or get people's like contact information to have like real conversations about it later on. Um, and so, yeah, I think that was like one major way that I went about it. And I think like looking up the statistics of schools and like their demographics and seeing if it fits with like what you're looking for. And I think some schools also will talk about like percentage of minority faculty,
Okay.
which is also something that kind of shows like what their commitment is to diversity if they have a diverse faculty. And so like looking into those like statistics and stuff. But I think it's, a lot of it comes from like how do you feel during the interview, or like different groups, like minority groups have their own like affinity groups within schools. So once, like, usually they'll have their own like interview events and like talking to them like genuinely about their experience and how it's been and struggles that they've had. And I feel like the more honest that people can be with me about that, like the better I can trust like what they have to say. And yeah, like even if there are things that could be improved, it's like, does the school acknowledge that and
There
like
you go.
try to work on that? So yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
just being, I know blunt is a hard word because it's an institution at the end of the day, but you're
Yeah.
right. If they are
Yeah.
able to at least identify some of the markers that they're like telling you, hey, this is not
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
going from there would be a great way to go,
Exactly.
which is